Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the final head-to-head matchup in the round of 64 of the brackets of the Link to the Past 2019 tournament. We are going to be seeing Megawatt and Acktheboker tonight. I'm Drosy1. I'm here with Hupfin. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. How about you?
I'm great. Just got back from AGDQ, actually, as I'm sure some of our viewers also did. And if you were there, I hope you enjoyed it. Um, it was fun meeting so many people from this great randomizer community that we have, I have to say. And yeah, as I was saying, there are 32 head-to-head matchups in the round of 64, and this is the final one to get underway. So this is the last group one, game one we'll be seeing, which also means base settings here.
Yep, this is our typical open mode, sort of our unofficial Group V championship. These two were in the same group during the group stage, and now they just got sorted to the same, matchup in the round of 64 as well.
And interestingly, they never actually faced each other in the group stage because Ack just breezed through while Megawatt lost his first matchup and then worked his way back up from the losers bracket to advance to the overall bracket.
Yep, but we'll see them get started off. Megawatt, well, both of them heading to the sanctuary and finding the hammer right out of the gate. You'll love to see that.
That was a heck of a start.
And I believe it was, that was regular crystals at Hera and Desert, I believe.
That was what I managed to see. I didn't catch what was at Eastern.
Eastern was vanilla, green pendant. Yeah, you always want to get that intel out of the way. And don't know that we'll be making much use of it immediately, but we still have to do all these early checks, do this lumberjack check Megawatt is going to give us.
That red rupee tree pull combined with the red rupee here in the Lost Woods is getting us well on our way to having money for Kakariko, though if we don't find any bombs, we'll have to spend 50 rupees on those.
Yeah, looks like Ack is going to be a little more cautious about the bombs. Looks like save quit back to the house. Gonna take a route that way that... Guys, there's a hook shot at Lake's house. Why is all the good things in the starting spots today?
That is like the most stacked opening I can imagine for open mode, where both starting points have something essential.
But what I was going to say is you have the bomb shops that are kind of towards the south of the Light World map, and so if you're expecting to buy bombs, that's a better place to start from. And then, of course, as I say that, Ack is just going up and visiting Uncle, which he doesn't sell bombs. He just gives out pieces of heart.
And now we know why he's dying in the sewers.
Yeah, that was his last piece. Come on. But yeah, going around with the hook shot and the hammer, not a bad idea. Going through the escape area, you've got the offense. This would be very viable. No reason not to get it out of the way early.
And both of our runners are now in perfectly good financial shape for Kakariko. So, in fact, both of them are going to do the full front of escape here.
Yeah, I would say you have to hope, you're so used to doing a pretty standard opening, which includes doing Kakariko. Gotta hope that neither of these runners confuse themselves by doing this.
Yeah, it's also just interesting because, as you say, the standard opening would have gotten them to Kakariko by now, that they're both choosing this routing.
Yeah. This is almost veering towards, you know, like being standard mode in a sense.
Depends where the key is.
True. And where the torch is, but yeah. A lot of our runners, they don't care about lamp, they don't care about doing dark rooms.
Well, as I learned recently, logic dictates that in open mode, the key cannot be in the boomerang chest or Zelda's chest, so it's either in Dark Cross or in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's not enough value to warrant doing that. So I think we're going to see a save and quit from Ack pretty quickly. Yep. And Megawatt will follow. And now we'll head to town.
Or will we? Because he's starting from Link's house. Looks like he might be going to the eastern area.
This looks like we're about to pick up some guaranteed bombs and probably take a check at the Lake Hylia Island as well, just to get that information out of the way.
And again, they're both doing the same routing here.
And that's a bow on the island. That is a bow on that island.
Guess we'll be seeing Mirror sometime this seed.
For our runner's sake, I sure hope so.
Well, and if they find the bow somewhere else, then Silver's will be an easy pickup.
And now we're finally seeing a bit of meaningful divergence. Megawatt heading over towards Eastern Proper, Ack finding the Moon Pearl at the dam.
And neither of them wants to touch Kakariko.
Have they been exiled from the city? Is there something going on that we don't know about here?
Well, there is that big wanted sign in Kakariko, right?
I mean, yes, there aside from the big wanted sign.
But actually, Ack getting that bottle will be nice because he can do Sick Kid once he goes to Kakariko, and it looks like Megawatt's going to do the dam, so he will very shortly have his Moon Pearl and bottle as well.
Yeah, at this point, we're kind of almost goofing about on how they're not headed to Kakariko, but we're seeing why it can be kind of valuable to hold off. You can come in with more resources and make it a little more efficient visit.
And Quake and Blue Mail were nice things to get out of Mini Moldorm Cave.
Dak is going to make the full run over to the Ice Rod Cave. Not a ton of money, so a Zora play is a little questionable, but you know, you can fake Flipper and get into that Waterfall Fairy.
Megawatt nicely refilling his health there so we don't have to listen to the beeping.
No, Ack has done the save and quit, and yeah, that's heading over to Kakariko.
I was wondering if he would maybe troll us just by going to Aegina first, but yes, he does seem to be going to Kakariko finally.
The best part there would be if Aegina does have something, then it's like the troll play that you do just to be a joke would actually save you a considerable amount of time.
Hey, you never know. They're actually... Oh, I didn't see what was on May's game, did you?
Just a piece of heart.
Vanilla. Yeah, I was starting to say they're running out of places to check. With gloves, they could have Dark World access. With Flute, they'd have pretty complete Death Mountain access, but as it is, they're running low.
Yep, Kakariko is just that dense. There's a dozen, I believe, here. 13?
14 if you count Sick Kid.
Ah, yes. I knew I was missing one. And Sick Kid's got the magic powder.
Make that 15.
Yeah, this is an extremely early Magic Bat visit. And Ack is going to metagame it a little bit and jump right on over.
I'm going to guess Megawott does the same.
I mean, it's reasonable plays again. Didn't pay off, but was a reasonable play.
So we still have Bottle Merchant and 5 in the Well and 5 in Blind's Hut.
Yep, all this and the chicken coop. All the serious value left. And yep, just as you predicted, Megawott is doing the same move.
And I was noticing that despite these pieces of heart showing up, they haven't gotten an extra heart container yet. Oh, as soon as I say that.
Oh, that's not what you meant, though, so... But yeah, I guess for all the heart containers we've seen, there have been a lot that we haven't picked up, being on Race Game or Lumberjack. So, you know, they may only have 3 at this stage. Yep, because that's 4, and that's Ack to another heart container.
So that plus Bloom Mail puts the runners in a much better health situation now.
Oh yeah, I don't expect either of them are concerned, and probably won't be for a while.
But if Blind's Hut doesn't have anything, all we have left is Eastern and Aegina.
And I would expect both runners to go over to Eastern. It's just more checks. And it's a pendant. That book does open up desert, and that glove does kinda open up the mountain.
And it opens up Dark World.
And there we go. That's a good Blind's Hut.
Yeah, finally. We got 2 important items right at the outset, and then we've just been waiting and waiting, and it was Blind's Hut all along.
So yeah, I think Ack is going to take that Dark World access that you mentioned and just go straight for it.
Well, they can full clear Thieves Town.
Indeed. Get most of the item checks in Skull Woods, but can't clear that. So, of course, Thieves Town is a pendant, along with Pod.
And we had the 5-6 in Turtle Rock and Mire. So you probably at least do the front 4 in Thieves Town and then try to make a decision based on how many items you get in them, whether you want to do more.
Yeah, because with this setup, again, you got most of the Dark World overworld available to you just by virtue of having a hammer. That's really all you need. So there's plenty of things to do other than dipping pendant dungeons, which you're always hesitant to do.
Oof, Ack doesn't quite get the
Oh.
stack lined up.
Megawatt's giving us a ped check. 3 bombs over on the pedestal.
So, Ped dead, sorry chat.
Well, I mean, the race we had right before this had the ice rod there with a crystal at T-Rock, so I'm sure if our runners were watching that, they're, Megawatt's relieved.
And I was busy admiring the pedestal, so I didn't actually see what Ack got in the room behind the Gibdos, but I'm assuming it wasn't anything.
No, just a map, I believe.
So, regarding the sprites, if Megawatt is Link from Minish Cap, what's up with Ack's color scheme?
I guess Ack is Pink Link, so Ack is actually Toadette in Super Mario Maker 2, is what's going on here.
Interesting. That's kind of meta. Oh, and there's our lamp. Now, the thing about that lamp is, 1, Death Mountain is fully in logic, and 2, if Desert is not boots locked, it's beatable.
Yeah, so that is plenty of item locations, especially with the hook shot, and one of our crystals that we could potentially go grab.
And there's that other bow, so the runners... they're going to have to get the mirror and they're going to have to get the flippers because Swamp say crystal, so I would expect them either before or after Swamp to pop over to Lake Hylia and grab the silvers as well.
Yeah, that seems like a sort of thing you can route in with ice, because that's a crystal as well. We're going to have to do that. That's going to put you in the lake already. But of course, that will make that bow be silvers rather than required, and if Ack or Megawatt get gold sword? Are you really that concerned?
Still about a 50-second savings, and I think it would be less than 50 seconds to pop over there.
That is true.
So on net, you shave 10-15 seconds off the run. We've certainly had enough races this tournament that have been within 10 or 15 seconds.
We are not finding very much down in here, though. Just Burna is really the big thing.
Well, now they can check Spike Cave when they go up Death Mountain.
Hey, there you go. There's never a good time to do it, so you might as well.
So Megawatt, I guess, is going to do the dig game in Stumpy.
Yep, take this southern route, ignoring Skullwoods for now, so not going to be holding on to that lamp. Again, if that's going to be the fire source that gets us through desert, that could be important, but could also be just completely irrelevant given our runner's skills.
And it looks like Acktheboker is continuing to the back of Thievestown. 2 more items back here, but it's going to be quite a bit of walking around for 2 items.
And quite a bit of digging, but for a sword, you take that.
In fairness to chat, by the way, with the confusion, there was some question last week about whether Ack and I were in fact the same person, but I can confirm we're not.
And this is how we're confirming it. You know, you're doing the commentary, Ack is doing the run. It's simultaneous. And it's a flute in the back of Thieves Town.
And Meyer is a crystal, so Megawatt's gonna have to go there sometime.
Instead, Megawatt goes to Hype Cave and finds a sword. So, a little bit of fair nomenclature. Potentially a lot, depends if we need that ether.
That's, you know, that's a pretty decent Hype Cave.
Yeah, again, we don't know Meyer or T-Rock, but hey, getting any medallion that's yeah, that's a 1 in 3 at worst. And Ack, having found all the items, is still going to clear out the dungeon. Thought for a minute he might be taking a death warp, but no, this looks like a run to finish it off.
Well, he didn't check the pedestal, as I recall. Only Megawatt did that, so... I mean, he probably should have, but he doesn't have the mirror now that he's in the Dark World, so...
That's boots on the pyramid.
This is...
Oh, okay. I see what Ack is. I see what Ack did. This is a gamble on if pedestal is required. Putting blind in the house, you know, bring the maiden over. That means that every time that you revisit, blind will be there. So that makes the whole back visit, you know, complete. You don't have to go back in there. It will mess up your script, so the blind fight will be a little trickier. But if you're going back in because you have to do all the pendants, whatever. You don't care anymore.
And the death warp was still kind of convenient, even though he did have to, you know, walk Blindette to her room.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, getting that flute now is probably more of a time save than any time spent setting that up for what will ultimately not be necessary.
So I was just realizing, the funny thing is, based on what we found, the runners could get all 3 pendants and pull Ped, so it's kind of unfortunate that we know nothing's on Ped.
Yeah, we're kind of in that position already. I mean, really, 2 of the easiest dungeons access-wise are pendants, Eastern and Thieves Town, and then Pod is basically Eastern but dark.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny because I was looking. We can full clear 5 dungeons, but only 2 of the 5 are actually crystals. Or I should say, we, the viewers, have the knowledge of all the items necessary to full clear 5 dungeons.
Yeah, so it kind of nudges you... Well, I think it'll nudge Ack more towards doing more overworld stuff and trying to get more clearance on the crystal dungeons. But Megawatt is going to make this sweep through Pod. Also pretty sensible. You have the equipment for this. Technically, you could also have the lamp. And, you know, there's plenty of item locations in here as well.
Yeah, and assuming Ack gets his boots off of Pyramid after he does Hype Cave, he'll be much better positioned than Megawatt, since he'll have all the items that Megawatt has, plus lamp and flute.
And there's our Titan's mitts.
So that means that at least 2 pendant dungeons were mandatory dips.
At least. For all we know, Ice Rod could be in Eastern, too.
And depending how far along the runners are with progression, say 20 minutes from now, I could easily see them dipping Eastern.
Yeah, the Ice Rod would be one of the worst just because Ice Rod can be anywhere. That's kind of its hallmark. If it ends up being something like, say, Flipper, something progression, something that really matters, I think the Eastern play is going to come up a bit sooner.
Now, this is interesting. Ack is going all the way up to do the Catfish play, which means he might not come down to dip Pod, since it'll be quite a hike. He might just say and quit and do something else.
And often this is a play that you hold until you have Mirror, so you can loop in the Zora area, probably assuming that you can check that later with an Ice Palace play or with something else.
Okay, Pod is doubly required because Megawatt just pulled the Ice Rod out of it as well.
Well.
Did I say Ice Rod? I meant Fire Rod.
Oh, that's still well, but like less well. It's like the Ice Rod would be well, whereas this is just well. I've said that word enough times that it's lost all meaning.
I mean, the Fire Rod is a lot more useful. There are just fewer places it can be precisely because it's more useful. The Ice Rod can be anywhere except on Trinex or in GT.
Yeah, for example, it could be... Well, it's not back here in the back of Escape, but the mirror is.
And also, by not finding the key, we know that Dark Cross has the key, so we don't need to go there.
Let's see what's over in King's Tomb, since Megawatt has that Titan's mitts. Just some bombs.
Yeah, so Megawatt should be going... Oh, he didn't... Oh, I guess that makes sense. It's easier to do Bonk Rocks first and then jump into Back of Escape because he doesn't know he's gonna get the mirror.
Yeah. Does feel like we're seeing a lot of vanilla Pieces of Heart, specifically.
Yeah, I feel like that's true a lot of the time. It might just be because there are 24 of them.
Yeah, I just feel like you often see, you know, junk drops, rupees, bombs, what have you. And Ack is going to go check Pedestal. Realize that you never need to visit blind again.
And I'm assuming Helmasaur had a dungeon item, and that's why Megawatt quit out of Pod. I wasn't counting items, though.
Honestly, neither was I. I was just looking for the highlights.
Yeah, and as chat is reminding us, Megawatt did in fact skip the Back of Escape, even though he went to the 2 Boots locations right near it.
Yeah, it could be a little troublesome. Oh, there's Bombos up in Spec Rock.
Well, always nice to complete your coin collection, puts your mind at ease.
Yep, and always nice to get that flute activated as early as possible so Noak can fly about as needed, and will be needed.
Now, assuming Megawatt can do dark rooms, which I assume he can, he's not going to actually need that lamp that he's skipped by not going into Skull Woods, though he'll probably find it unless he's in go mode when he hits Skull.
Yeah, that is true. The only way you really absolutely positively need that lamp is if it blocks Fire Rod.
Which it didn't because it was in Harmless Hellway, so it was in one of those actual lit locations in Pod.
Yeah, as far as I can tell with the key logic, because, you know, there's a lot of keys in Pod, it turns out, that's all well and good. Yeah.
And so far we've seen a shroom in Lower Paradox Cave. Unless that was Upper Paradox Cave, I don't know, it's a paradox.
It was Lower Upper Paradox Cave, and Upper Lower Paradox Cave had nothing.
Meanwhile, Acktheboker has found his way right into Desert, thanks to having the mirror in the book. He checked Bombos en route and is now gone a full clear Desert, I assume.
Hey, it's one of those few crystal dungeons that you can full clear with the kit that you've got.
And Megawatt is right by another one of those, so I'm gonna guess he'll do Hera. So neither of our tablets really had anything today.
No, at this point, the book has really just given us information. It wasn't even necessary to get into Desert. You could flute, Titan's Mitts, mirror. You had the other route.
Except Ack doesn't have Titan's Mitts and Mega doesn't have the flute.
Well, yes, no one runner has a route, but it is accessible.
At this rate, we're gonna be in no mode well before either of the runners is in go mode.
It kind of does feel like that.
And both Desert and Tower of Hera have vanilla big keys today, which in the case of Tower of Hera means that the Hera pot clip will save quite a bit of time and you just have to hope that the big chest doesn't have the other item.
Yeah, this is a skip that can feel a little dangerous to do when you know that you've got an item outstanding and you don't have that big key. I don't expect either runner to actually sit through the basement unless they have to.
Yeah, I think if Moldorm dropped... Ooh, that was a little fall there. But yes, I was going to say if Moldorm drops the map, you probably just hope there's nothing useful in the big chest.
Well, Moldorm gets melted pretty easily. And drops a piece of heart, so yeah, you can skip that big key today.
Piece of heart for peace of mind. So Megawatt gets his first crystal at the 33-minute mark, and then at the rate we're going, Ack will have his by the 34-minute mark.
It's always nice to get to do Spiral Cave with boots. Little unfortunate to have to do land mows without a rod to really speed it along, but Ack makes short work of it regardless.
Yeah, that bacon sword is definitely helping. And now since Megawatt actually has the Titan's mitts, he can go and do Dark Death Mountain as well.
Yeah, this is why when you're in Megawatt's position, you make this play. You head on up even without the lamp or the flute. Like, no logical access, technically. But you've got all of this available to you that you know you want to hit up. You know you're going to have to come up here. You want to come up here as few times as possible.
Just like, Megawatt knows he can't go into Turtle Rock without the cane, but might as well open the portal and open the entrance.
With that Bombos.
So at this point, in terms of our own no mode, I think we just need Ice Rod Flippers and Samaria.
Yep, that's it. I mean, we even know where silvers are. Nothing huge out of Super Bunny Cave. We will be able to get a peek at the Hookshot Cave as well. We saw there wasn't anything of note on the island, so no concern that Megawatt doesn't have the mirror here.
Nothing much in Hookshot Cave, though. But here's where that Cane of Burna comes in handy, as I said earlier.
Yeah, you've got the chance to not orphan this location, and orphaning a location in just the unfortunate circumstance that kills runs, that loses tournaments. So makes perfect sense for Megawatt to say, I'm going to hit this one up, even if it's a little out of the way, rather than wait until it's way out of the way. It looks like we have Ack heading up to also go do Hera. At least from the way this route looks.
Yeah, he can take a bit faster of a route with that mirror.
And I'm guessing Megawatt is going to go over and do Desert.
And with that Fire Rod, he should have a bit easier of a time on Landmos. So let's see if Ack handles Hera the same way Megawatt did.
Like I was saying, I don't see why you wouldn't at this point. A lot of our runners have become comfortable doing these pot clips. So you can kind of expect that your opponent will do it in this situation.
Wait, I just realized I miscounted items in Tower of Hera. For some reason, I had thought that the map chest had contained an item, but it contained the map. So there is an item in the big chest.
Oh. Oh.
Because the compass is in the compass chest. I feel kind of silly saying the map's in the map chest and the compass is in the compass chest.
Perhaps the moon pearl is in the big chest.
It duplicated itself.
Yes, I made the same mistake. So, again, this is orphaning a location. You can really expect your opponent to have done the same, but that means it's going to stick in your mind.
Well, I wonder if Ack will take a huge risk of going back in. Probably not at this point. There are many other easier places to check and hopefully get go mode from.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one that your Ack is going back inside of Hera, making liars of us both. I feel like this is some kind of commentator's curse, but backwards. Actually, yeah, chat brings up a fair point. Without Titan's Mitts, Ack is a little limited and might be expecting something valuable in a really rude location.
Oh, right. He can't do Dark Death Mountain at all.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that the solution here is to do another pendant dungeon dip, considering Ack already did one and it paid out. Also, that is a fascinating setup for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And he didn't even hit the star. Well, he has the hook shot, so it doesn't matter. Yuck.
Yikes. That does put both of our runners at a tied crystal count at the 41.5 mark.
I mean, progression could easily be in Meyer's Shed at this point, which of course neither runner has access to.
Yeah.
Probably more likely for Ack to go into pod before Megawatt double dips Pendant Thieves, but I don't see either of those happening imminently.
Yeah, I feel like Megawatt is going to take that Fire Rod and head... Well, no, make this back of escape dip, which will get him the mirror. But you would probably go and take care of Skull Woods before you dip into Thieves Town.
And Ack with the flute, I could see him turning in that mushroom pretty soon.
That is true. And again, we haven't seen Zora, who has been in Logic for a bit now. But we're quickly starting to talk about one-off locations other than, what each runner also, the other one did.
Yeah, the problem is, you don't generally want to go independent dungeons if you can help it. So I feel like these runners are going to be checking one-off locations before they go to where we know they can find progression. Oh, and Megawatt's gonna see what's on Bumper Ledge and check Graveyard Ledge, I think.
Yeah, I think Ack did a quick peek at Bumper Ledge and there wasn't anything. Nope, just some bombs. But Graveyard Ledge will be entirely new information if that's where he's heading. And
Actually,
it's not.
I'm guessing he'll do Skull Woods, which he hasn't been into at all, and then he can go across via Graveyard Ledge to Catfish. Not that Catfish has anything.
No, that is a sensible route, though.
Or he could go south from here and do the Smith's Chain.
Yeah. Or, you know, make the fortunate play and finish off Thieves Town, but again, pretty likely to be the last option on that list. Smith's Chain looks a lot more appealing right now.
Yeah, we haven't seen Hammer Pegs. So there's the Smith himself, there's Hammer Pegs. Megawatt hasn't been to Cave 45, and then there's the Purple Chest, and he hasn't checked Bombo's tablet either.
Yep, a lot of little things you can just get one after another. It's a perfectly sensible direction.
Now, where do we think Ack's going? Maybe he's doing Graveyard Ledge.
This looks like Graveyard Ledge, yeah.
Because there's absolutely nothing else up here that he hasn't already checked.
Yeah, we'll also get the look at the King's Tomb, because you don't need Titan's Mitts if you do it this way.
Oh, right, I forgot that. Right, he couldn't get in there before without Titan's Mitts.
Yeah, nothing of consequence there, but... Was there anything of consequence?
Nice moth kill. No, we'd already seen both items in the front.
Yeah. Well,
And
we
I
had,
imagine
Megawott hadn't.
Right. But I imagine Megawatt will get the items out of the front and get his lamp. Which, you know, is a nice to have when it comes to things like Meyer Basement.
Yeah. Again, you don't need it when you're playing at this level. The logic always expects you to have it. And really, it's the Meyer Basement is the main dark room that you're, like, concerned about. Ack is going to take a flute over to the Witch. Makes perfect sense. You've already done Catfish. No need to play with the Dark World. Just a hard container there.
And we're at the point where, especially with blue mail, these runners don't need to worry about getting any further health.
And yes, this will be the Zora check, but by way of Waterfall Ferry, and not going to check under the bridge. Gonna leave that for later.
Vanilla Flippers could be interesting. That would open up Swamp.
Yeah, it would also be interesting because that's just kind of funny, really.
Every so often you see it. It is always amusing when it happens.
Well, nothing on Zora Ledge, so no reason to ever come back.
And Megawatt is doing these northerly checks in lieu of doing Smith Chain. And Zora is the king of bad investments.
Yep, the classic scam.
Oh yeah, chat pointing out that to get across, Megawatt would actually need to kern jump in this direction. But he pulls it off very nicely on the first try.
Yeah. This isn't getting you anywhere that you don't have access to some other intended way, but man, is that faster.
But look at where Acktheboker is going now.
Hey!
So, assuming he digs deep enough to pull out the fire rod and doesn't nope out after getting the Titan's mitts, he will have a pretty firm lead.
Yeah, I would say that lead would pretty strongly be based on having that flute out of Thieves Town, which is unlikely. Again, I will absolutely repeat that, but Megawatt could do that at any time.
And then the question is, well, is there progression in Mire Shed or Checkerboard Cave or even in Misery Mire itself, which we know we can unlock since we have all the pendants? Oh, nice Ancilla glitch there to do the fake flippering on Megawatt's part.
Yeah, and another interesting setup with that. This has also just been a nice run to see those alternate setups, like how Acktheboker did that Harapot earlier.
And just to explain that splash deletion on Megawatt's part, since this is a relatively recently discovered glitch, the basic idea is if you get enough stuff happening on the screen with bombs and arrows, the game won't be able to generate a splash when you hit the water, and if it can't generate a splash, it doesn't think you're in the water.
Yep. As Chad asked, I don't know if that works inside of Swamp Palace. I suspect it doesn't, but I haven't seen one way or the other.
I think it might. I think it would also be such a pain because there are so many different places where you would need to jump into the water.
That is true, yeah.
Waste of time, almost certainly, to try to do it. Meanwhile, Ack got his Titan's mitts and is fortunately going back in, so he should get his fire rod.
And Megawatt is dipping into Eastern Palace to get his question mark. Who knows what's in here? We haven't been here yet.
And it does have the green pendant, so effectively there are 4 items that Eastern makes available because you can, if you beat it, you can just walk over to Sahasrara like the vanilla game intends and cash that in.
That's a thing that's in Eastern, for sure.
Yes,
and it kind of looks like a question.
Thing. So, confirmed, dipping all 3 pendant dungeons is mandatory this seed. Does it still count as Oops All dungeons if you don't actually have to beat them?
You know, I'm trying to think of a punchy joke, and I don't have one, so I'm going to say yes.
Okay, so Oops All dungeons. Right, so we still need to know where Flippers and Ice Rod are, and of course Megawatt is still gonna need to find that flute, which he doesn't know is in Thebes.
Yeah, Megawatt already did that pendant dip. So that's going to be a pendant double dip on Megawatt's side. Unfortunate.
And Ack, with his mirror, is now going to be practically high-fiving Megawatt and will get his cane in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, this is the value for Ack in holding off on Visiting Pod for so long. Now that you have the mirror, you can loop both of these in right after each other.
So the only things Ack can't do at this point are go into Swamp and beat Trinex.
Yep, unfortunately those are both very important things to do in this seed, but everything else is available.
Right, but he only has 2 crystals, which means he can get 3 more before he has to start worrying about where things are.
Absolutely, this gives you plenty of options for your routing.
And Megawatt is on to Armos Knights here.
Just misses the textbook clear. But now let's see if Sahasrara has something of interest. And question in chat, the silvers are on the Lake Hylia Island, which we did see earlier on, but nobody has the flippers or the will to go check it yet, or to go grab it yet, I should say.
So I'd say the best boomerang is something of interest. It's just not what we need.
It's interesting, yes. But you're right. We are not going to require that. It's just going to make a few maneuvers a little more convenient.
Now, this is kind of interesting because Megawatt has the boots, and that was a southward-facing jump, so couldn't he have just done a water walk with the boots?
I have no idea anymore. There have been so many unusual glitches and interesting tricks found in the last year or two that like I'm starting to get out of the loop.
Chat telling us he did not properly arm the water walk. I don't even know how you do arm the water walk, but I can believe he didn't arm it.
I believe you need a pit or certain types of ledges to do that. Again, I've seen setups that require a pit, like coming out of the Ice Rod Cave.
Yeah, so Megawatt can complete Ice Palace. We just have to remember that everything in here is out of logic, and the only useful item he could possibly find in here is the Ice Rod. I mean, I guess Butter Sword would be nice, but
Yeah,
really,
but you're looking for that ice rod. That's what really matters here. Ack, meanwhile, is over in the mire area, where either the ice rod or the flippers could be.
hey, another vanilla piece of heart. You like those, don't you?
I didn't say I liked them. I said I observed them. Just because I see it doesn't mean I like it.
Well, liking from a certain point of view.
Yes, Ack, regardless of what's in here, will be able to full clear this and clears out this first room very nicely.
And as chat's pointing out, the worst case scenario would be like flippers in Turtle Rock and Ice Rod in Swamp, which would make a required double dip of Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that's not the worst case for either particular runner, it's just the worst case.
And given what we've already had this seed, honestly, it's not great, but that's not a horrible thing.
Oh, no.
You know, if 0 is a walk in the park and 10 is agony, that's no worse than a 7.
I mean, the moment you're in an ice rod hunt like these runners are, you're at least in a 6. Getting the half magic and mire, a nice time for a refill. Going to go and do the cutscene chest. Has the big key already, so hoping that this is one of the precious few items in Mire. And that is a useful one.
Well, specifically, there's only one such item remaining because half magic was the first item.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was an item.
Yep. I mean...
That's technically an item.
I feel bad saying this twice in the same broadcast, but it is piece of heart for peace of mind. I've totally lost track in Ice of how many more items we have to see.
I think that was the last one.
But Cold Stare does, well, you know, have a crystal on him.
Yeah.
Or it, or them. Oh, and nice spooky action by Ack.
So now it's all eyes on screen. with Cold Stare and Vitreous fights simultaneously, both going pretty quickly.
That's like 13 eyes between them, and that's not even counting the 2 eyes on each link.
It's a lot of eyes, for sure. And the eyes have keys, it turns out.
Well, they want to look through keyholes. I mean, that's what eyes are good for, right? And so if you steal the key, you can make sure that you can still look through the keyhole.
I feel like we're getting off track a little bit.
Anyway, Acktheboker is going to show us Checkerboard Cave.
And Megawatt is geared up to go and make it. Oh, there's the flippers. There's the flippers.
So, I was not wrong about the Meyer area having some progression.
Technically, yes.
Which means Megawatt is going to make a very unfortunate double dip of Turtle Rock. Well, actually, we don't know it's a double dip. The Ice Rod could be in there. He could get lucky.
That is true. But yeah, Ack has been making all the right calls when it comes to the pendant dungeons in particular, which really amounts to going and doing the bulk of Thieves Town. But also, timing with Pod and Eastern was not that bad. It did defer the Titan's Mitts for a while, but in the end, that wasn't a terrible move.
You know, I think one of the qualifiers had Flute in the back of Pendant Thieves Town. So, starting to become a theme this tournament. Yeah, I'm guessing Axe routing here will be do Swamp, grab the silvers off of Lake Hylia Island, and then do Ice.
Yep, not looping in the Smith's chain, but at this point, he's hunting for one item. So you're kind of hoping that Swamp or Ice, or somewhere else more convenient than that will have it.
And for all we know, the first chest in Swamp will have it, and he can go mode the rest.
That would be best case for Ack. Best case for Megawatt is probably Ice Rod in Turtle Rock. Because I feel like Ack would be more likely to last location in that way.
Well, and it would also mean he'd have to full clear Swamp and Ice.
Yeah.
Well, we know that if he doesn't find the Ice Rod in Swamp, he'll almost certainly full clear Ice next.
Megawatt getting bullied by some Chain Chomp cameos. Fortunately, that very early powder is going to be a wonderful safety to have here. There are plenty of anti-fairies to hit up and get a heal.
That is a nice bunny form for Megawatt.
Yeah.
Another vanilla big key. We've been seeing a lot of those.
Yeah, actually, is that, what, 3 or 4 this seed?
It's at least 3. I can't quite remember if we've seen a 4th.
And Ack is gonna skip the left side, hope that he doesn't have to come back.
I was watching Megawatt as he found 2 items so far. Yeah, it's always nice when you do have the God Swamp, but we are ways off from knowing whether that's the case.
Oh, we know where the ice rod is now.
Well, at least Megawatt won't have to double dip it.
I mean, there's that. And yeah, like I was saying, that is pretty good news for Megawatt compared to Ack, who is definitely going to be hitting that up late.
So yeah, what might Megawatt do next? He doesn't have access to Swamp, he doesn't have access to Mire, and he's cleaned out Pod. So in terms of dungeons, the back of Thieves is the only place he can check, and beyond that, there's really just Smith's Chain. I can't think of too much else.
Yeah, and that's probably the order that you would do them in, to be honest. Just given where the portal is, you go from the top of Kakariko, go sweep through Thieves Town just to be sure, and then forget about the Smiths. The Smiths can go hammer their swords. Although, actually, as I say that, one, that's rather rude to the Smiths, I apologize. Two, Megawatt still wouldn't have the flippers, so still would want to go and do that to look for those.
Well, if he gets the flute before doing Smith's Chain, then conceivably he could go straight to Mire. Okay, as expected, Ack took the little detour to grab his silvers.
Yep. This will be a pretty textbook try and X fight, though. Don't see Megawatt being worried about this at all.
Yeah, basically how you do it in NMG, except he didn't quite get the 4th slash there, but he takes it down pretty quickly anyway.
And simple as that, get 1 more crystal and 20 more rupees.
And the big question is just how long will Megawatt put off going to the back of Thieves?
And how long will Ack put off going into Turtle Rock?
Well, he doesn't have too many checks left either, except that he could also do Smith Chain.
True.
Though he hasn't been to Dark Death Mountain at all.
Yeah, but I think you would do Smith Chain before that. Just so that all you have left is up on that mountain. You're going up, you're not coming back.
Until the duck drags you from Agatu's chamber.
Until the duck does, yeah. The one time that it responds when you play the flute in the Dark World. The one time.
Even if you haven't collected the flute.
You just whistle and it shows up. This is a serious plot hole in The Legend of Zelda.
Well, I think it's less likely now that Megawatt will do the Smith chain because Bombos would have been a logical final step in the Smith chain, but he just kind of went there instead.
Yeah.
But where's he going now? I'm a bit confused. The nice thing about Mire and Turtle Rock being the 5/6 crystals is that Pyramid Fairy is absolutely out of the equation.
That is true, yeah. With how our runners have routed and how the items have shaken out. We're never going in there.
Yeah, given where Ice Rod is, we actually have a pretty good race here.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of last locationing, a lot of these out-of-the-way checks that you don't want to have to do. But you'd rather do that than run into Turtle Rock without the Ice Rod.
And Ack didn't quite make that bomb jump. So he'll be taking the long way around to get to Ice Tea Room. Actually, did Ice Tea Room have an... No, that was his third item, so he lucked out.
And just a health refill off the Smiths. And yeah, that's leaving behind the purple chest. And going, I expect, to Thieves Town instead.
I can't possibly imagine where else he'd be going.
Yeah.
Ooh, Ack has a bit of trouble with Cold Stare there. He is down to 1 heart. He missed the opportunity to keep all the puffs in the corner.
And yeah, Ack did not pick up a bottle with a fairy. That was Megawatt. And I'm pretty sure used up the potion. Doesn't matter anymore, but that was a bit tense.
1 heart and no magic.
Oh no, I did have the blue potion. Making us all sweat over here. But as that is going on, Megawatt is in the back of Thieves Town and is going to find that flute.
And our runners are even on the crystal count, 5-5. So I would imagine Ack's gonna finish off Skull Woods first, just to get that out of the way.
Oh, absolutely. I had missed that Ack hadn't done Skull Woods, in fact.
There is Megawatt's flute, but, you know... Oh, he's mirroring out. He is not even gonna bother with that 4th item. He's gonna really hope it's not the flippers. Unfortunately for him, it's not. Ah, such beautiful music. And yes, we heard it many, many times at AGDQ.
But Megawatt is going to go and finish off the Smith chain.
Well, it's only 1 more check.
Yeah, and this is actually not that bad. Can flute with that chest, get down to that area, realize it's nothing, and then flute right over to Mire.
Yeah, I really thought for a while that Acktheboker was just going to run away with this seed, and then Megawatt was saved by the Ice Rod placement.
Yeah, even holding off that flute for as long as he did, after a point, that becomes the bottleneck, and you're just shuttled directly to where you need to go. Ack is not going to have that luxury.
And Megawatt is doing checkerboard before Meyer, so he will be in go mode and able to go mode both Meyer and Swamp.
Yep, at 119.39, that is go mode for Megawatt.
But
And
look at where
honestly,
Acktheboker is going.
Ooh.
We have a race, folks.
That we do. Megawatt gets probably two of the better dungeons to go mode and gets to go mode them. Ack is on the way to a rude Ice Rod location, but one that is going to make the remainder of this run very convenient for him.
He'll probably do Hookshot Cave first, though, and Super Bunny.
I would expect that. I don't know if there's a clever way with, setting a portal at the laser bridge, or like some way that you can be like, well, I'm going to plow through Turtle Rock and expect the worst, and if it's not there, then hop out and not have to redo the dungeon. But that's when you're entering shenanigans that I don't know how you position that perfectly.
I think at that point it would take more time than it's worth. Yeah, he's going over to Super Bunny and Hookshot.
And Megawatt is going straight for Viddy, because that was pretty much a Godmire.
Yeah, so Megawatt will almost certainly get his 7th crystal first, but Acktheboker has the advantage of already being up the mountain. Kind of like a race we had yesterday afternoon that I don't want to spoil beyond that, but do watch the Sabotender versus Walter race from yesterday if you get the chance.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing you love to see, and as we get further into the tournament, we're going to see them more and more. These very close races where execution and clever choices in the routes are really going to pay out.
Chad also pointing out whether or not Megawatt will get the silvers after he finishes Swamp. I think it's still less than 50 seconds to just run over to Lake Hylia Island and grab them before you go up Death Mountain, but I don't know if that's what Megawatt's thinking.
Yeah, it's hard to reconcile that. You're also wondering, does Megawatt feel ahead or behind at this point? With those item locations, I would guess behind. And at that point, do you take the time to get silvers, or do you just rush it and hope for the best? But we will see in a bit as Megawatt heads on over to Swamp. Ack is going to have to go on through Turtle Rock as you do.
And go mode will save him 0 time because thanks to the key layout today in Turtle Rock, laser bridge is mandatory.
Yeah, you just need to find the key in there and be done with it, but you do need to go down there in the first place.
Yeah, so I suppose it could save him marginal time depending what order he does laser bridge.
Yeah.
Nice spin attack on that Hokuboku. And swag block kick.
Chain Chomps were not that impressed, though.
To answer chat, a go mode Turtle Rock is basically, if you happen to get a favorable key layout, you can skip Laser Bridge.
Yeah, and if you happen to get a really favorable key layout, you can skip this lava chest as well, but not worth doing.
But today, with the big key and its vanilla location, you're forced to expend the key that Ack just gotten expended, which means that he'll need to pick up the key that's on Laser Bridge to be able to get to Trinex. But yeah, I think I give Ack about a minute lead just because he's up the mountain and the crystal grab should be pretty close in time. And Megawatt has to either make a slight detour for the silver arrows or be at the disadvantage of Silverless Ganon.
Yes, here we have it. Once Ack clears out these mimics, we'll have go mode on his side as well. And there it is, 126.
And I'm sure he is hugely relieved to find that there.
Yeah, really finding it anywhere in T-Rock is a relief. Mimic Cave, Laser Bridge. You're a little grumpy, but you're very happy.
Megawatt peeling off all the little Argai with pretty fast work.
All right, so this
very. Oh, go ahead.
Now this does make it a little interesting because we always like to do that Ganon Tower Big Key guessing game. So we will get it started now. I'd say we start it now, but it will depend on who goes into GT first that we will actually be tracking.
Yes. So what's your guess today? I don't think I can really have much of a prayer of getting a number in before chat just did.
Oh, absolutely. It's beyond hope. But I'm going to throw down a 5 today.
You're hoping that the seed will be nice after sending our runners all over the world. That makes sense.
Yeah. And here it is. A mountain climb versus a Trinex fight. Both starting basically at the same time.
Yeah, so I think Ack will be the first one in, but probably by less than a minute now. Yeah, actually, this is crazy because they're going to be closer than I thought unless Megawatt gets dead rocked up here.
Yeah.
He does not. So yeah, he'll be ducking through the portal right as Ack warps out of there. This is crazy.
Yeah, look at how tight this is. And Ack did not get spin speed, so Megawatt is going to be just a little bit ahead.
So get your final guesses in here.
And yeah, based on this, we will be using Megawatt's picks for the guessing game. So even if Ack takes a different route, finds it first, we'll be going off the number on the left side of your screen.
So that's about a 3-second difference entering.
That is tense. So check number 1, small key. Check number 2, the bug net. Everyone's favorite.
Megawatt's doing full right.
As is Ack.
Wow. So it's all execution from here on in. They're taking the same routing. I guess one of them could go full right to Ice Armos, but barring that, it's all execution.
Yeah, Acktheboker was the winner of the group. Megawatt came up through the losers bracket, so you might expect Ack to have better execution, but you just don't know. Chest number 3, red rupee. Chest number 4, 10 bombs. Chest number 5, red rupee. Chest number 6, the shovel.
And they just did that room in total sync. That's amazing.
And location number 7, the torch, is the mirror shield. We will not be touching that one.
And just a reminder, if we do get a tie here, the runners will have to replay game 1 effectively with the same settings.
Yep, and this is shuffling around room by room as to who has the edge. Chest number 8, small key. Chest number 9, single rupee. Chest number 10, another small key. Number 11 gives us the cape. Location 12 is the bombs. Now officially, as Megawatt has checked it again, we are going off of Megawatt's side regardless of who is in the lead.
And you and I were both too optimistic.
Afraid so. Just some more bombs. So we're headed down to the rando room.
And Ack has about a 2-warp lead here.
See what Megawatt's order is. 14 blue rupee, 15 gold sword, 16 big key. Ack did it mere seconds earlier, and we are off.
And congratulations to N01 Inferno. 40 points on the leaderboard, and we had several others who also guessed correctly.
So yes, by my count, it looked like these two were 6 seconds apart going up into the gauntlet.
But as you were saying when they were still in the basement, you know, to this point in the tournament, Ack has done better, and it's now showing off with just slightly better execution, but just slightly better execution is all you need when it's basically a tie.
Yep, and certainly that half magic might come into handy. Our runners do have at least a green potion. I know Ack has a blue potion as well. Megawatt didn't pick one up as far as I saw. So we're talking marginal advantages, but this is a run on the margins now.
Yeah, it's less of an issue just because they have silvers, so they're even if they both had half magic, they're gonna do Lanma with silvers anyway.
Stalfos not cooperating very much for Ack. Still about a room ahead getting into the Landmos first. Megawatt, again, about 5 or 6 seconds behind.
And Ack puts on a clinic for beating Landmos there, and Megawatt does the same.
Absolutely brilliant zero cycle for both of them. Again, these Wizro Bruins taken care of, no problem. Clean tech.
Yeah, but Ack has about a one-room lead now.
Yep.
Ooh, just avoids a fall there. And yeah, Megawatt had to stop to refill his magic, but Ack also did despite the half magic, so again, it didn't affect the time. Now there's a slight difference. Ack skipped that magic refill and Megawatt's gonna need to get it.
Yeah, just another little bit that Ack can take advantage, take a little more of a lead. Oh, and Megawatt takes a fall on Lorm.
So unless Ack screws something up, that might have sealed it.
That very well could have done it. And Megawatt does still have a chance. Of course, Aghanim could play rude with the geometry, and there's always a possibility of a Ganon fall, as small as it might be. But that is some nice geometry from Ack so far.
Wow. Always nice to see a triple. Though he got a bit greedy. If he hadn't been trying for a triple on the second one, I think he would have gotten a double.
And it gets a 0 on the third go of it. But that double will clean it out. And as Axe summons the duck, Megawatt into the Aga 2 fight. Scores the double. And a double.
I wonder what's going through the runners' heads at this point, since neither of them seen the other's dot done.
Oh yeah, you've got to be worried.
But Megawatt does make up a bit of time getting a 3 cycle while Ack had a 4 cycle.
Yep, that still looks like about a 30-second difference, which is definitely far too wide for a tie. Let's see how these Ganon fights go.
Yeah, Buttersword makes it real easy to get 1 cycles on phase 1 and phase 2. Ack just slashing away to make absolutely sure. I think that's like 9 or 10 slashes when he only needs 6. Stop it, Ganon.
Well, fortunately, these Ganon warps are going to be the same for both runners, so this is not going to be the make or break here.
They're both on phase 3.
But Ack has just made it to phase 4 with those silver arrows. Gets a double on the first shot. Does not get the torch glitch, but that is great positioning. 3 and 4, and that is it. So Ack just needs to clear this bridge safely. And we have it.
Yeah, that was. Oh, and Megawatt gets the double too at the expense of the torch glitch, and Acktheboker finishes in first with an official SRL time of 1:38.52. GG's.
And Megawatt is going to be right behind him.
And he will finish with an official SRL time of 1:39.15, a 23-second difference. So major GG's to both players. Let's see if we can get them in here. We are joined by Megawatt and Acktheboker. GG's both of you. That was quite the race.
GG.
Yeah, GG, Zach.
GG, man.
Did you guys realize, like, how close it was? I mean, I guess we'll work backwards in time, but what were your thoughts going up GT, you know, over an hour and a half in and not seeing a dot done from the other?
Well, it was a pretty dumb seed in a lot of aspects.
Yeah.
Any seed with progression in the back, Pen and Thieves Town, can go do unpleasant things to itself. So I missed that flute for a very long time, and it ended up being between, like, what, 3 locations that I had left on the map?
Yeah, just about at that
point. It was bad, yeah.
How can you blame it on the back of Pendant Thieves Town when you had the freaking Ice Rod and Mimic Cave? Like, nah, dude. No, wait a second. I think that's way worse.
Hey, I disagree just because I found that a lot sooner.
Well, that's how I feel about the flute.
I have to ask, did either of you race in the qual that had the flute in the back of Pendant Thieves Town? Because if you did, you'd know that's where the flute is.
Absolutely not.
Oh, Lord.
I forget which qual it was. I just remember that there was a qual that had that. But yeah, the other interesting thing, like, both of you guys took almost exactly the same routing to begin with. Neither of you wanted to touch Kakariko for a while. Can you talk us through what you were each thinking with that?
Just because, like, I got a hammer in Sanctuary, and then basically after Lost Waves, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start with Escape. That way, maybe I can try to plan to go to Kakariko with at least as close to Dark World access as I can muster before it just starts to hurt me to avoid Kakariko. And then I get hookshot out of Link's house. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm doing whatever I can to get bombs and go on South Shore after this Escape play. So that's exactly what I did. And then, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I studied routing from the book of Megawatt, so that was exactly my same thoughts as well while I was doing that.
Know your opponent, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And then, you know, you had the hook shots, so you saved the transition, and you had enough money to buy bombs if you did a tier 1 tree pull, so it was fine.
Yeah.
Seemed like the right thing to do.
And yeah, I guess the other stuff, you know, just there was a lot of progression in Pendant Dungeons today. I guess Ack in particular, were you basically just running out of locations when you decided to stack Pendant Pod with Pendant Eastern?
Yeah, I didn't have anything left, but I didn't necessarily mind that, and kind of like checking most of the stuff that is before the mids, because you assume that they're there, but then you get mid stuff, then you're probably going to start chasing mids locations, so it would suck if you left something very easy behind. So I didn't mind putting that stuff off, and I kind of figured Megawatt didn't get his flute early as well, and I felt like I was in a good spot to not really take any risk at that point. And then when I saw the flute only unlock the flippers, and I was like, well, I'm not actually sure anymore where I'm at in this race.
I felt the same way after my relatively early pod play. I did that at like, what, 20 or 25 minutes? Just because I found an early bow, and that usually gets me thinking like, oh, there's something big in Palace of Darkness. Crystal or Pennant be damned. So I just went straight in there, expecting to find the mitts, but also got the fire out of it, so that was pretty neat. Didn't really capitalize as much on it as I could have, because the particular way I routed, such that I was able to go to Dark World as soon as I got to Kakariko, meant that I missed out on the mirror for quite a bit longer than I normally would, given its location. Like, If I
Yeah,
don't
I
end
was-
up going to the Dark World straight from CAC, I always check back of escape before heading Dark World. So that would have definitely saved me a good amount of time right there.
Oh, you didn't
I
get
was
the
kind of
mirror
surprised,
quicker?
though.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
That makes sense.
Megawatt, when you came back to the Light World after that first Dark World foray, you had the boots, and you did King's Tomb and Bonk Rocks, but you didn't check back of escape at that point. I was kind of surprised.
What was it I did after that? Skullwoods?
I think you went up Death Mountain.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. 'Cause
Why
I had
didn't
the
you just
entirety
flute
of
up
Death Mountain
there?
build.
Hey.
I'm sorry.
Hey.
Rude. I definitely would have liked to have a blue potato on hand, but unfortunately, that's not how it worked out in this scene.
But hey, the Ice Rod location was your saving grace that kept you in it.
I mean, yeah, I definitely lucked into that one, considering Flute was just in such a relatively early location. Ice Rod could have easily been anywhere in Swamp or Mire, and I would have been absolutely screwed. And this race would have been nowhere near as close as it was. But I guess it just happened out. It just lucked out in the sense that it ended up in Turtle Rock for the most part.
Yeah, and I mean, Godmire and Go Mode Swamp are always a nice gift.
Wait. So okay. So you got your mitts and fire red from Pod, but you didn't. You probably didn't have Kane from Eastern yet when you climbed up Death Mountain.
That's correct.
Oh man!
So I did not
Imagine
dive right
doing
away.
Turtle Rock without the mirror. That would have been real nice.
That would have been awful. Like if I had that cane, I would not have 100% gone for it, but I definitely would have strongly considered it.
Yeah,
Like,
I
just
think I
'cause you're in
probably
that
would have
position.
too.
Yeah, if you're in that position, like the seed just gives you all the items to go in, you're like, oh, I'm feeling really tempted to go in. I think there's something in there.
You would have just been missing, I guess, flute, flippers, and ice rod at that time.
Flute, flipper, ice. That sounds about right. Yeah. I also did
Yeah.
not have a mirror until after I did Death Mountain, then I did like Desert, and then I thought to check back of escape, and then finally got my mirror. So I was also missing that at the time.
Yeah, and Ack, you did Death Mountain before you got your mitts out of Pod, so both of you went up Death Mountain with, you know, an item that could have helped the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been really interesting. I don't know. I don't know how I would have felt about the Turtle Rock play then. I don't know. Maybe. It was hard to tell.
Yeah. It
But
was
yeah,
still,
you guys
still
should
would have been a hard
definitely-
call to make.
You should definitely watch it back because you were in complete sync with each other in GT Compass Room. It was amazing.
Well, we did.
And then Ack just had a bit better execution going up, and then Megawatt, unfortunately, your Moldorm fall kind of sealed it.
Well, it's real easy to have good execution up the gauntlet when you have half magic. Dude, if I had that, I would have been blazing through with the fire rod.
Well, stop go-moding all the dungeons.
I think I rely too heavily.
Godmire.
I definitely rely too heavily on having half magic in the gauntlet sometimes, and I just get way too used to just throwing the fire rod around everywhere, absolutely decimating everything, and I just neglect practicing a somewhat more magic restricted climb. That definitely could have helped me out this time around.
Well, even with that, it was great execution. Just keeping it so close for so long is wonderful to watch. So GG's to the both of you for that.
Yeah. GG's.
GG, Zach.
And
Yeah,
of
GG's,
course,
man. It's game 2 time.
Yeah. And which leads into the question I was about to ask. Megawatt, have you thought about settings for Game 2?
Yeah, it didn't really take long to figure out what I wanted to go with next, and I think we're gonna go with Fast Cannon on Game 2.
Oh, that should be fun. Take GT out of the equation. Do you guys have a time for Game 2, I guess is the other thing, if you want to plug that.
Right now, actually, I'm not.
Giga.
And I'm just gonna let you know,
Because,
Megawatt,
yeah.
if we do a game 3, I'm not gonna let you know what setting I'm gonna pick until
Alright,
like
cool.
10 minutes before the match. I will not let you know that I'll probably pick map and compass shuffle until then, because I don't want you to practice it. That'd be rude.
Nice. Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
It'd suck if I got some practice in beforehand to actually get prepared for a potential Game
Yeah.
3.
It's all about strategy, you know.
Exactly. You gotta keep your cards to your chest.
This got a little too erotic for me. I think
Hey!
a commentary and stream and tracking all that stuff. GG's Megawatt. You'll get the next two, man. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, GG's to you both. I'm looking forward to your game 2 whenever you guys wind up scheduling it.
At this point, I'm more looking forward to the post-run interview with you two.
Yeah, you want to just skip the race and just do the interview? We can make something up. I mean, I'm for that.
So I think we're about ready to wrap for tonight. This is actually the last race of any sort on Speed Gaming tonight. Tomorrow for this tournament, though, we don't know what channels yet, but we will be featuring Lin versus Bwain Game 2 at 7:20 Eastern and Scary Olive versus Zelda Dasan Game 2 at 8:20 Eastern. I don't actually know how that one turned out because it was still going on when this race started. But yeah, should be a couple of good Game 2s on here tomorrow.
Yep, and we also have the Randomizer daily race at 2 p.m. Eastern. Again, we haven't settled the channels on everything, so just go ahead and follow Speed Gaming 2 through 6 and this main channel, and you'll get notified when these runs come up.
And also follow the ALTTP Randomizer channels, ALTTP Randomizer and ALTTP Randomizer 2 through 5, because especially now that things are starting to get back into swing with speed with AGDQ over, we should have a much busier schedule for you next week, and the races should really be spread out among the Speed Gaming and ALTTP Randomizer channels. And of course, a thanks to our tracker, White Wolfos, who's done a great job today keeping track of the runners, basically finding everything except for, you know, a couple of bottles in red mail.
I'll have you know, I found all 4 bottles. If this was bottle percent, I would have kicked your butt. But I gave it to you this time.
With all that green goo you could have put in there, it was like you had quadruple magic.
And yes, be sure to follow our runners because these are wonderful runners and wonderful personalities. You definitely want to see more from them.
Yes, this has to go 3 games just so we can hear more post-game interviews from you guys.
Oh boy. I gotta bring my A game. Gotta write up some material.
Of course, thanks again to my co-com Hopton here.
Shoutouts to P-Flame.
And the de facto co-coms Acktheboker and Megawatt.
Dude, Ack, you want to just calm our own race next time?
P-Flame literally just said 2-hour stream delay so they can calm their own match. I am for that.
That's awesome.
Incredible. Also, special shout outs to Mr. Drossi, too. I literally saw this guy, like, 24 hours ago at AGDQ in Orlando, Florida. So, just getting back from vacation, and he's already back to business, man. It's the craziest thing in the world.
As I recall, you hijacked my chat when we were watching a match there.
Oh, I did do that. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's something I did.
Oh.
Well, awesome, guys. Have a good night. Thanks again.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks for commentating and tracking and restreaming and et cetera, et cetera.
And thank you guys, and thank you chat for watching and enjoying this very entertaining run with us.